Hello, I'm Travis Wilson, and I'm here at the OPO Startups building on Main Street in historic St. Charles, Missouri. This IT incubator has been recently renovated and has collaborative workspace available. So come with me as we check it out. I'm joined today by OPO founder Randy Schilling. Randy, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Sure, Travis. Great to be here.
You know, Randy, it is so exciting to be here at the OPO on Main Street. I could just feel the creative energy when we walked in. Can you tell me a little bit more about the great story that you have for how this came to be?
Sure, yeah. So OPO really came about through a collaboration with Partners for Progress, working with Greg Presteman, and also the city and the county have all been supportive of this effort. And it really was, we looked around at what was going on with the startup community in the greater St. Louis region, and we asked ourselves, what are we doing out in St. Charles County to help entrepreneurs and startups out here? And that's really where the discussion began. And Greg and I started talking, and the timing just worked out that the old post office came available, and so I was able to purchase that. So we purchased the building, and what greater use for the building than to start create jobs and create new businesses and help support the entrepreneurial community. So that's kind of how it got started.
Well, that's really interesting. Now, do I understand correctly that this isn't necessarily your first rodeo as far as a business owner here in St. Charles? This has been sort of a process to get to this point. Is that right? Yeah,
so I started, my first business was Quilogy. When we started, the name was Salutech, and that was back in 1992. And I had that business 18, 19 years, and then we sold that business to a company called Aspect back in 2010 in January. So after the sale of that business, others started to ask me questions, would want to have lunch, and I still own the real estate down here. Aspect was leasing that, or leases that space from me still today.
And they're right next door,
They're
aren't
next
they?
door in the old Oddfellows building, right. And so we'd have these lunches, and people would kind of want to pick my brain on how we did Quilogy and how that all went, and then I would, I'd start helping them out a little bit and giving them some feedback or sharing my experiences more than anything. That's kind of how OPO, the concept got started. But in the meantime, we started another business called BoardPack. So we do paperless board meetings. We have about 850 companies or so that use that product today. But my chief technology officer from Quilogy came over after about a year, and we started that business, and it's taken off. And so the natural thing so I was already collaborating with other people at lunch or coming by the office, and I thought, well, let's try to formalize that. And that was another contributing part of OPO, was to kind of take that, create that collaboration space in a more formal way than just meeting for lunch on Main Street somewhere. And so it's really been neat to see. I mean, it's been great to see how OPO has taken off, and more importantly, how it's fitting with the overall ecosystem with the rest of the startup community around town. So, we do a lot of collaboration with T-Rex and the folks out at Cortex as well. So it's really not just what's happening here, but what's happening in the greater St. Louis region with the startup community. It's quite a great story, and there's just a lot of activity there now.
It really is a great story, and it's been exciting for us as well to see the things that have been happening, especially since now you have so many members. How many companies do you have here now?
We have about 40 companies, about 70, 75 members right now. And yeah, it's been exciting to see. And in a selfish way, it's been, great for me too, because I get to continue to collaborate with others and learn from them. I'm still learning. And it's always a learning process. And as we try to grow BoardPack, I go around and utilize a lot of resources that people here. So I'll use Dustin McKisson, for example, for doing some social media stuff. We'll use Bob Miano from Miano TV to film stuff, to do YouTube video ads, for example. We'll use Embassy, which is another member here, to help out with our Facebook and other things. So there's a lot of sharing going on, and in a selfish way, it's actually helping me grow my business, BoardPack. So it's been helpful that way as well. And I think we have a pretty wide range. We have folks that are just starting out, and we also have people like Bob that's been in the industry for 30 years, and so he really loved the vibe of the building and being a part of OPO, and so it was great. It's great to have him here. So it's a nice mix. So we'll see folks that are just trying to do a startup for the first time. We have other people like Bob that's been around the block a few times. So it's a nice mix.
Now, what made you want to start a business in St. Charles? You were a St. Charles native, correct?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I had, my wife and I both are from St. Charles, and a lot of people say, what are you doing on Main Street? And so we started in '92, and I always tell everybody, well, I went to grade school 2 blocks up the street and 3 or 4 blocks the other way, graduated from St. Charles High School. So my wife and I are both, from here, and we have our family here. And when I was in the tech industry, when I graduated as an electrical engineer from Mizzou, I worked 5 years in Decatur, Illinois, and doing my engineering deal. I was hired away from there from Grant Thornton, a management consulting firm, to help them start an IT practice. And I was having to travel all over the place. We moved back to St. Charles, but I was spending most of my time in New York and Houston and Chicago. And so I thought, well, if I'm having to sell the work and manage the work and train everybody, I thought, well, I could do that from my hometown. And that's how the first company, Quillogy, got started in '92. So, but by having that support network, your family around, really, was a key factor in that. So it was what a great deal, to be able to do that in your hometown and on Main Street, so it was kind of a real blessing. And also trying to have an impact on the, later it became more important to try to have a positive impact on the community. So it became more than just that business. It was about, also getting into the restoration of historic buildings. And so, we've been partnering with Jim Drosty and his family, and that business has been in his family for a few generations now. So yeah, it's great to be able to work with other people in town, and the post office, was post office here in 1909 to 1962, and being able to restore that, and it'll be around for another 100 years. So with the work that's been done to it, so we're excited about it.
Tell me a little bit about the options that are available here at OPO. You have certain levels that a person can become a member. Can you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, sure. So again, OPO is really a collaboration space, and so the memberships are just that you can have just a general membership. It's $75. So if you're thinking about starting a business and you just want to collaborate, and a lot of stuff just happens upstairs in the what we call the community room, or really in the lobby of OPO. You can have meetings up there. There's conference rooms to meet with folks, with potential customers, investors, mentors, accountants, lawyers, whatever. So that's a general membership. You can also just get a desk. In other words, you get a chair and a space, like here in the co-working space, and that's $150 a month. Or you can have an office, and we have a variety of offices that really start at $350 a month, up to, to a suite, which could be as much as $1,000 a month, depending on the size of it. And so it really gives a lot of opportunities. Everything's inclusive, so you don't have to pay utilities, or you need a mailbox. We have mailboxes. You can have your stuff mailed here. The internet, of course, and then we also have a lot of activities. So we do a monthly lunch for everybody here. So we'll do barbecues and so forth.
How
we have
cool.
our Startup Wednesdays. So we have educational things every week. So you can always jump in on a Wednesday evening, and that's actually open to the public. The public can register for those and attend those as well. So last night, for example, we had Lewis and Clark Venture Funds are here speaking, and so they have a $100 million fund where they're looking for investments in various startups around the Midwest.
So they're like the angel investors we've heard about?
They're actually, they would be called what they call a Series A investor, so beyond the angel investors. But we also get people like Arch Grants, which would be an angel investor, or Capital Innovators, other people around the St. Louis area that do invest in, kind of an angel network or very early stage. Lewis and Clark is what they call, they're looking for people that have, 2.5, 3 million of revenue already in customers, and they're looking to invest to get them to the next level.
And so you had mentioned something earlier about when you're talking about those funders, you actually have an event you have a couple times a year, the demo days, is that right?
We do, yes. Twice a year we do demo day, and that's where we have members of OPO put their pitch deck together, which is typically about 10 PowerPoint slides, and they get roughly 8.5 minutes to present, so they really have to have their pitch down and very precise, and we're looking for specific things that we give them an outline. And then we have in the audience, we have investors. So we'll have somebody from Arch Grants, somebody from Cultivation Capital, somebody from Capital Innovators. Lewis and Clark may also be at that.
Sure.
And then also people from the community can sit in and watch those. And so that's where they're really trying to, the startups are trying to get their messaging right, and it also helps them kind of solidify their thought process, give them feedback. So even if they don't get investment, they learn a lot in the process. And so, and actually, the one that we're doing on our anniversary, we're actually going to have some prize money associated with that. Well, so there'll be $2,500 that we'll hand out to some of those startups. So that'll be kind of a good little seed capital for a few of them.
Truly amazing, absolutely. And the fact that there's an opportunity like that here in St. Charles, that's just remarkable. And so it appears that you've got a wealth of experience with helping young entrepreneurs that are starting out. What sort of success stories can you tell us about that have come about as part of the OPO?
Yeah, so OPO is still very young. We're not even a year old yet, but as I said, we have a number of startups here. And so across the street, we have Tenant Loop, which is building some software to manage rental properties. They've taken off, and they have I want to say they have like 5 or 6 employees over there right now, and that has just started. And they're in the funding phase, so they've raised some capital. I'm not sure how much, but a significant amount of capital, and raising more now. But that one looks very promising. We also have Red 8 down here, which has been very successful on the services side. So their owner actually lives in San Francisco, sells their work to small ad agencies, and the creative piece is done on the West Coast or East Coast, and then the programming is done here at OPO by their staff, and they're also developing some product concepts that they're working on around automation of websites and so forth. Other ones we have, Craig Caesar is developing some really interesting classes around STEM education, which is an important thing for the county overall. And so he held his first STEM class for targeting primarily grade school kids just the other night. And so that was exciting to see. I mean, there are so many different things going. We had the Grillinator guy, Sean Cornett. He just launched his Kickstarter campaign. And this morning, he had raised already $15,000 and on a way to $50,000. So it's pretty exciting.
It sounds exciting.
There's a lot of stuff going on. Liviera, which actually is not necessarily tech, but is lingerie, they're here. And Caragato, a local graduate from Lindenwood, came back to town and was one of our first members at OPO, and they're beginning their manufacturing right now. We'll have to wait and see what happens there.
And so, Randy, now that you have the OPO established here, and you have the vision for what's currently happening, what do you see happening, and how can companies grow beyond these walls? What's the next 5 or 10 years look like?
Well, I mean, I think that's the most exciting part of the whole thing about OPO. I mean, look how far we've come in such a short period of time. Within the first year, we have 40 companies in here, and we've actually had some graduate. Switzer Creative, they started here and they've moved out to their own office in St. Charles, and we hope to see a lot more of those exits. And not only that, but OPO is expanding. It's more than just the post office. We have the plaza just to the south of the building. So we have an outdoor venue for doing events and for people to meet and collaborate out there.
Also done by Drosty Construction, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then we also have the annex across the street. So we have 12 offices over there, above Abigail's store over there. And soon we'll have another building to add to that. And so we see this thing continuing. You know, the real dream is that this becomes a startup district, not just, you know, a building. And, you know, it's really cool to restore the old historic building, but the real treasure is, you know, besides the building, that's kind of a cool deal, but is really the businesses that are created and where they go beyond OPO, because we want them all to grow to be successful and continue to add jobs and you know, create businesses that can be spread around the region. So that's exciting.
Now, you're the owner and the founder, but you don't run this show alone. You've got some help, right?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And with a lot of help from support from the city and also the state, Missouri Technology Corporation provides some funding for those Wednesday night events, and also for our community manager, which is Megan McKisson. And so she actually reports up through Greg Prestman at the Partners for Progress and the EDC. So it really is a joint effort, you know, with the city and Partners for Progress and the state. So and she does a great job. So anyone that's interested in finding out more about OPO should reach out, go to our website, OPOstartups.com. There's a phone number or a contact form, and Megan gives tours all day long, so people can come take a tour and see what it's all about, and perhaps become a member.
Well, it sounds like an amazing opportunity. I guess the question I have, you know, so many of us are familiar with companies like, say, Apple, for instance. Mm-hmm. And Apple, of course, started out of their garage. But yet this seems like this would be a better place to get your start. Tell me why you think this would be the spot, as opposed to starting out of your garage like Steve Jobs did.
Well, I think, you know, the big thing is it's about the people. You know, it's about you know, attracting and retaining smart people, surrounding yourself with other people, and it just accelerates your growth and your learning so much more. And so the opportunity to sit down and discuss, you know, how did you do the e-commerce piece? How did you take payment? Where did you find a good web designer? Where did you find a good programmer? Where do you find what dealing with legal attorneys and setting up terms of use and all those things, HR issues, accounting issues. So, you know, I know we're sitting here, this is actually BDO space, accounting firm. And so, so getting all those resources that you need to start a business, and not only that, but being around others that have done it before, and learning from them is a huge help, and really it helps accelerate. In some cases, it even helps push you over the hump to make you successful when otherwise you might, you know, flounder around for a while. So, and also we can help plug you into those other resources around the region, you know, whether it's the folks down at T-Rex or the Cortex. So, you know, we have those connections that help put you in touch with the right people, whether they're here at OPO or one of the other, you know, core centers around town.
So you don't have to learn from your own mistakes, you can learn from other people's mistakes.
That's right. It's much better to do it that way.
What was it you have said in the past? You said that you learn more from failure than success, is that right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Randy. I really appreciate it. For Randy Schilling, I'm Travis Wilson. This has been Check Out St. Charles. Thank you for watching.